This is a continuation of the tradition that the Dean is hoping to move forward. This is also evidenced in the Leadership Council meetings we've been holding, which are every Friday, maybe once a month or so. Our next meeting is on November 21st, and that's another it's a good way to get to, put your input into the, into the administration, and we really want to thank everyone who's been showing up to those meetings. We'd also like to thank the faculty and administration that made it out here today. And at the end of this session, we're going to have a question and answer session. For those of you who don't want to raise your hand, or maybe you have a question that you'd rather not, say aloud, we have some note cards over there by Dean Santorino. And some of them are floating around out here too. Danny has some back there. You can write your question on there and just pass it over to Dylan, and he will graciously ask your question for you. So without further ado, I guess, let's welcome Dean Bartoli.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to do this town hall again. I think that there is something about tradition that is very important. And it's good to do one thing once, and it's good to do something well once. But it's much better to do it again, and then again, and then again. There is a cumulative effect that is very, very important. So last year we had 2 town halls, and the first one was a little difficult. It was new. We were in a big hall in main hall. It was a big thing. Then we decided that diplomacy was better. Diplomacy is our room. This is where we found, and I can see that we are doing better and better. I couldn't come when we had the welcome. You may recall that I had to depart very suddenly. But when we met at the beginning of the year, this was our theme, leading our School of Diplomacy. And the reason for me to do the town hall with those words is, again, because I believe that it's good for us to use words intentionally and not just to be sloppy and not imprecise. So the idea there is that in order for the school to move forward to the next 15 years, we have the first 15 years just concluded, we're moving towards the new 15 years, and you can roughly say that you have a period of 7-8 years in the school life. So let's say that we are projecting the next 7 or the next 15. I think that there are these 2 functions that are very important. One is dreaming and one is working. Professor Balmaceda is here, and she liked this idea of linking dreaming and working, because if you dream without work, you are just deluding yourself. You are just fantasizing. You don't really do anything. If you work without dreaming, you're just oppressed by your own doing. You don't necessarily take up your head and say, okay, where am I really going? What is this? What is the progression that comes from this? So the idea is just not to have a new session, a new season. New season comes just because they come. So we don't need to, it's by definition new. Every year you start. But the fact that that new season is ours is a little less obvious. We need to make it ours in order for it to be so. And I want to stress the fact that it's a challenging season. This is not an easy season. It's not a downhill kind of season. And the reason is because the Great Recession is a serious thing. I don't know how much of you, you like Caldwell works and this kind of journalistic, But he makes a point that they had all these studies about very smart people and IQs and so on, and he demonstrates very clearly that IQs is actually irrelevant in terms of success. What really counts is the environment around. You have a great IQ and then you don't have the right environment, you don't find a job, you don't find the right opportunity, you don't find the right things, and so on and so forth. So I think that it's important for us to say something happened in the world in the last 7 years. This is not a joke. It's not something that we need to look into ourselves and say, oh, but what does it mean for me? And it's just that happened to all of us, to the whole global world together. So 7 years were very difficult because of economic trends, because of personal challenges that obviously are connected to the trends, so many losing jobs, losing money, losing houses, and so on. For us was also a time of institutional transition. So what was the decision internally? We decided that the best response to those 7 years is actually a creative cooperative response. So you first admit and say aloud that these were the challenges, that this was the years, that this was the climate in which we were, and then you put the head together and you say, okay, how are we going to move forward? What is really happening? What is going to come after? So I made the point when we met at the welcome that we are made by others. We are clearly made by ourselves, but also by the environment in which we live. So when this morning I was telling the story of this meeting in a mission close to the UN, it was very clear that a lot of the participants were looking at me because I had 10 years of investment in the genocide prevention field, and at the moment in which you have states engaging with what we were discussing for 10 years, they wanted to have advice, they wanted to be consulted, they wanted to come to Seton Hall. And so when they said, can we come to Seton Hall, I smiled and I said, of course you can. Wouldn't it be nice for the School of Diplomacy to have all these people thinking genocide prevention globally to come here? It would be good for the students, good for faculty, good for us, good for the name, and it would be good because look at this. Adama Dieng is coming November 10. Well, why is Adama Dieng coming November 10? Well, because Dr. Manojlovic met him, invited him, and he said yes. So when I read Professor Balmaceda's book on energy and hubs and ways to reconceptualize the way energy is produced in a country and understood in a country, I say we will have delegation coming here because they want to discuss those ideas. When I receive, where is the book, Professor Kucheko?
Yeah.
When we see Professor Kucheko presenting the new book on corruption, I say this is a book that is going to bring us notoriety. People will come here to discuss corruption. And this is not because we are running after people, but because we are looking for the fundamental ideas that are relevant in the world as the world is happening. So in this sense, we are really made by the words. The words these are not silly things. If you speak about participatory budgeting, you do need to speak with Professor Goldfrank. But these are big ideas. These are things that can change people's life and actually have changed millions of people. A lot of people were changed by words. So what I wanted to say when we did the welcome is that we need to succeed in private before succeeding in public. Before you go public with a book, you need to struggle with your own manuscript. Before you go public, you go into hundreds of drafts to say what you want to say properly. It's the equivalent of somebody doing a dance move or doing a skate. I don't know how many of you went after the welcome. I gave you the link of going into these Russian and US champions that were skating at the Olympics and so on. How many times they must have done those moves before they were able to do them properly? So the question is, if we take ourselves seriously, if we make the school internally much better, seriously, engaging each other better, then our ideas will be better, our influence will be better, our capacity to be relevant will be stronger. Am I making any sense? Okay, so before coming into this meeting, I was speaking with Gabriela Taveras. She's an undergraduate, and she's facilitating an agreement between the school and United Nations Association of the Dominican Republic. This is the first agreement after the agreement that is constitutive for us with the United Nations Association of the United States, that is at the beginning of the school. So I'm thinking, could it be that the next 15 years we'll actually have more agreement like the one that Gabriela is helping us to negotiate? Could it be that the next school will actually have many countries with United Nations Association associated to the School of Diplomacy? I don't know. But that possibility is certainly stronger now that we know that we can have this other agreement. Am I making any sense? Who decided that? It was actually an alumnus, Emil, who reached out to us, and the professor responded to it. So, what I'm trying to say here is that the School of Diplomacy is a lab, that we are doing things that are relevant not just for me personally, individually, but for a lot of other people. And that if we do them well, if we do them exceptionally well, everybody will gain. Everybody does actually gain, especially in leadership skill. Gabriele is a demonstration that you don't need to be the dean to lead the school. Or that it's not only the dean leading the school. That leadership is actually authentic influence that create value. And this is something we all do all the time. And if we don't, the school just fails. Craig is organizing a conference with the village of South Orange. He desperately wanted me to be part of it, and I wanted to be part of it. Unfortunately, I need to go and see Ban Ki-moon. I have a job to do, I cannot do that, I can do this. So he said, why don't you record a video? Smart move, why not? Delighted to do a video, happy to do a video. He wins, I wins, Ban Ki-moon wins, everybody wins. Am I making any sense? These things are creating by everybody, faculty, administration, students. But when I went back into the 15 years, the first 15 years of the school, I realized that actually committed, engaged, active participation of the students was the key of the energy, of the innovations, of a lot of twisting and new things that were happening in the school. So this is why I'm really looking forward to work with you for the next few years in this dynamic alignment, thinking of cooperative success. You succeed, we succeed. When we look at the, and by the way, remember that after the end we have also the World Leader Forum. We ask at the welcome to spell out the values that were important for you in identifying what was enduring. Not just what is important to us, but what has been important for a while. What is connected to what endures, what continues. I have the list. I'm happy to share it with you for anybody who is interested. And you also offered some ideas of what to do this year. But after the question and answer, I would like to go through a different kind of exercise that has to do with student satisfaction. And the reason is because Dean San Gimino last year came to me. She is very determined. She's very insistent when she wants to be. And said we need to look into student satisfaction. We cannot let student satisfaction just be an idea. We need to engage, we need to do. And so we did a survey. Please.
Oh, okay. We started with the first year grad students and the freshman students at the School of Diplomacy. And we distributed the survey, and there were some things that seemed kind of curious to us that we would like to explore a little more. So what we would like to do, and I'll be working also with Professor Gochekis on this, is we will be distributing a student satisfaction survey later this year to all the students. But what we would like is your input.
And this is a big move because we started
Huge.
only with freshmen and first year students. We would like now to involve everybody.
And satisfaction is, not just the traditional services of admissions or student services, but there are academic questions, there are questions on extracurricular activities. So we would like really the input of all the students, and we have available for you copies, someone has copies of the survey, take it with you. We would like your input on it, and you'll be reading more about how we will be gathering your input for this survey that we will be putting out in e-news. We'll be announcing in e-news how you can respond and give us your feedback.
So that's very important to me because if I'm happy, if I'm satisfied, I will engage even more. If I'm dissatisfied and I feel that people are not listening, I will disengage. And I need engagement of students to make the school as good as it could be. And the reason I'm trying to do this is because I do believe that there is a certain level of urgency. There is an urgency for you because you clearly want to do the best while you are a student. But there is an urgency in the world because we need to understand what is happening. We want to have an impact. We want to understand what is there that is relevant to all of us. So why don't we do the question and answer period, and then, if you don't mind, we'll go into 1, 2, 4 all process.